So I've always loved building products. I started programming iPhone apps when I was 12 years old, and whenever I'd go home from school, the main thing I would procrastinate from all my homework was building apps. And when I started working on Speechify, it was kind of like this clicking moment for me, this big moment for me, where I realized that this app is really changing people's lives. It's one of these tools that so many people are using every single day, and it's having such an impact on people. And so when you multiply that across the number of people that are using Speechify, it's just so much more impactful than anything else I've ever worked on. What I love most sometimes is working on products that I use myself, and Speechify falls into that category. I did my master's in computer science at Stanford, and to read research papers is very eye-straining, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of focus, and I use Speechify for almost every single paper that I read. Every day I get to learn just how many new use cases there are that I didn't even imagine. At first, it was just an app for people with reading disabilities and education, and now I have friends that are using it to listen to the news while they have a long commute going to work. So Speechify's #1 leadership principle is leading with love. It's kind of a hard concept to understand because usually people think of the workplace as being somewhere where, people are very business-driven, very finance-driven, very competitive, and it's just so completely different at Speechify compared to this. Leading with love means that people are literally offering to put other people in front of themselves. It's like quite the opposite of like the normal competitive culture that you expect where everybody wants to get ahead of everybody else. AI is one of the most innovative fields today because there has been new development in the tools that we use in AI that wasn't available 20, 30 years ago. And so everything that we do with artificial intelligence at Speechify is cutting edge, new technology, state of the art, and it requires really staying on top of all of the latest research, because whenever another team somewhere, whether it's at a university or at a private company, invents and discovers something new, we need to stay on top of that so that we can then be creative about how we use that new innovation as well as add other things on top of it. When we think of being creative from an AI perspective, we're thinking about, would it be possible to create someone's voice in only a minute with only a minute of their audio talking instead of using 5 hours of their audio talking? Are there other unrelated concepts in artificial intelligence that are not related to text-to-speech that we can use and apply here to solve this other problem? Within the industry options, I think working at a very small company, like 3-4 people, you just don't have the same sort of impact in the sense that the team is very constrained in terms of resources. A later stage startup like Speechify has a very large, strong team of people as well as resources to back any research that we want to do. And so we can actually afford to invest into the research while having a product that's actually commercializing that research in a way that early startup companies are going to have a difficult time until they scale to have those resources. And then as far as the large tech corporations, sometimes they're not as focused in the sense that they can afford to spend resources so freely that sometimes they lose track of what the main impact that they're trying to have is, or they're willing to invest into research just for the sake of researching, much like people in academia do as well. I think that at a company like Speechify, the focus definitely always remains at how can we take this research and actually apply to improve people's lives. Speechify is a product that is hyper-scaling right now, where we're seeing 5 to 10x growth every year. It means that when we introduce a new technology, like a better sounding voice to the product, it's able to have that much more impact. So just as an example, one project that really inspires me right now is we want to automatically choose which voice to use for different dialogues when people are listening to stories with Speechify. We want them to have a better reading experience. It's a very innovative problem that still has so much room to grow and be studied in, and Speechify is the perfect outlet to not only solve that problem, but also once we have a solution to it, to push it to tens of millions of users that are going to use it effectively to actually enhance their everyday life and enjoy reading in a way that they couldn't otherwise. What excites me the most about the future of Speechify is the idea that computers don't need to be interacted with just with a mouse or just with a keyboard. We're going to get to the point where you can actually interact with a computer like you see in the movies, where you have a sort of Jarvis AI that is able to communicate with you the way that a human does. And what's going to be very special is when the technology that we're building at Speechify is going to be instrumental to making those voices sound so human and have emotion and be able to communicate with people in a way that actually makes the experience very productive.